Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Jesse from BD at Ojo. Um, First off, just really happy to be here. Shout out to the Epic Web3 team. It's a really nice event. And if I can leave you with one piece of value today, that would be to not book an Austrian Airways flight that has a 25-minute layover because you're going to run through the airport and miss your flight, have to be rebooked the next morning, and end up coming straight to the event like I did today. But hopefully you can get some value from the talk on oracles as well. And especially what we're doing at Ojo Network around what we're calling smart oracles, a new primitive, which we've actually just launched a precursor to last week. Our exchange rate oracle, which leads into our smart oracles. This was the first Morpho market powered by Ojo. But before we jump into the future of DeFi, I want to kind of talk about the past and do a bit of a recap, because I think the hard hitting truth is DeFi has kind of failed on its original promise to create better financial products for the everyday consumer. And I don't think anything sums that failure up better than this image of your airdrop farmer starter pack. Um, yeah, we've all kind of been there. Protocols that promise, astronomical yields and APYs that are collapsed within a few months. Innovative tokenomics that end up being elaborate Ponzi schemes. It's just this endless hype of complex financial instruments that catastrophically fail and leave someone holding the bags. So it's been largely a zero-sum game. Not only is it unsustainable, it's bad for Web3's reputation, and it's also prohibited institutional adoption. But there's hope. I think right now we're seeing, again, another inflection point where we do have the chance to build valuable financial products that generate real healthy yield. These are innovative DeFi protocols that are generating yield based on genuine economic activity like lending, borrowing. And so this is what we think is sustainable DeFi. It's smart DeFi, and we think that smart DeFi needs smart oracles. And so that brings us to the topic. Um, and so smart oracles were developed by Ojo as part of a larger restaking initiative with two goals in mind: to minimize risk and to make DeFi safer and to make the markets more efficient. Um, and this is a huge opportunity we see. So even the market I mentioned to you, we launched last week. This was in collaboration with Mallow Finance, Morpho, and MEV Capital on an ETH derivative that alone has 200 million TVL. And that's a tiny fraction of what we see as a very fragmented, multi-billion-dollar LRT ecosystem. And before I tell you how Ojo's smart oracles are well positioned to support that ecosystem, um, let's kind of recalibrate a bit. So we looked at kind of early DeFi and some of its shortcomings, and now I want to kind of just get a general glance of the current state of the landscape, because it seems like we've come a really long way, and it really feels like next gen finance has arrived. So if we start with liquid restaking market, it's absolutely exploded. We're seeing big protocols compete for market share and to produce the best yield. If we look at the Eigenlayer ecosystem alone, it's already showing extensive network of AVSs, node operators, LRT Fi. BTC LRT ecosystem paints a similar picture. Major protocols, all developing wrappers, derivatives, roll-ups, I think most recently, Swell last week launched their L2. Ojo was there to support with Oracle feeds for their Swell Bitcoin LRT. But again, not only the development of the assets, we see a lot of uh, utilization and compatibility as these major players continuously fight for just ever more yield. Throw in Symbiotic, Carrick, Jito, Babylon, and then we start to see this whole restaking ecosystem just expand exponentially. This is a more kind of succinct, holistic restaking ecosystem map, courtesy of Poopman DeFi. Shout out to Poopman. But here we see the origins of major players being organized in what is already uh, a liquid restaking market with a $35 billion in TVL. RWA's similarly impressive at the moment. We see protocols like Ondo Finance approaching 1 billion in TVL. Centrifuge has kind of pioneered tokenizing real-world assets like business loans or receivables. And like LRTs, RWAs pose their own challenges when it comes to oracles because we don't see the same level of consistent market activity that we do with your typical crypto tokens. You can't just roll up to Uniswap and pull a feed on a collateral on a tokenized property or business loan. And it's precisely because of these unique challenges that we're seeing a fundamental shift in the way that protocols are thinking about their infrastructure. Typically, protocols would build their infra around a single Oracle provider, and that was probably Chainlink. But modern DeFi protocols like Morpho, which has 2.5 billion currently TVL, Silo over 100 million TVL, these new platforms are designed to be infra agnostic. They can support multiple feeds and multiple oracles. And at Ojo, we see this as a massive opportunity in the market because it shows that DeFi protocols are saying we want better Oracle infrastructure to support these unique new asset types. And so that was one reason that we worked on the smart oracles, was to make DeFi more efficient for those specific use cases. Second reason was to make it safer. So let's look at a couple of real world implications of using an outdated Oracle approach. First up, we have the Mango Markets hack. This was a $117 million exploit. No code vulnerability, just a fundamental flaw in the way that market rate oracles work. For those who aren't familiar, the attacker initiated some leverage positions, deploying a lot of capital, then used a lot more capital to pump up the spot price with the trade, and then borrowed against his leverage positions and transferred those borrowed assets out of the protocol. The whole thing took 40 minutes. And that is a classic example of why market rate price feeds don't work for all assets. On the other end, we have Scream lending protocol. So these guys hard coded the value of a couple of their stablecoin assets, and in a DPEG event where a lot of stablecoins got wobbly, it allowed users to borrow other stables cheaper against these. We're also seeing that a lot with some Morpho markets. Many Morpho markets just actually peg the LRT value to the underlying value of the asset, which is also kind of not ideal. But in this case, what it led to was 35 million in bad debt for Scream, and users that were actually holders of the hard-coded stables were unable to withdraw their funds. So obviously not good for them either. And so this is why we've created smart oracles to kind of offer a different alternative and prevent against these kind of attacks. So they're ready to deploy for applicable markets. The liquid restaking market is already 12.5 billion in TVL. And similarly, the RWA market is currently at around 7 billion in TVL. So I want to give you a quick look at how smart oracles work. And remember, the premise here is quite simple but powerful. And the idea is to make DeFi markets more efficient and safer. And so you can think of a smart oracle as a brain that has three components: a primary feed or cerebrum, which is your main data processing; a secondary feed, which acts as like a stabilizer reference; and a decision maker, which will use conditional logic to make the final call. So moving on from the theory, to give you a couple of actual examples of smart oracles we've developed for specific use cases. Historical is the first example. This was developed for governance tokens. The market rate is your standard TV WAP market price feed. And the secondary feed is your median three-day median price. So it's a lagging indicator. And the logic is that the oracle price is always going to be equal to or less than the median. And so when we see an example like the mango market situation, where someone comes along and tries to artificially inflate the price, the oracle is going to cap it at the median. And therefore, it's no longer possible to kind of create a price that's above the historical median. And this might kind of inconvenience some users if we do see major swings, major upward swings in the price, but it's better than having to pause the entire protocol or halt the entire protocol. And so the impact of that is now protocols can safeguard against this type of attack. It's no longer possible to suffer such a consequence when it's impossible for the oracle price to output anything that is above a 3-day median price. So they can deploy markets for them safely. This is specifically like governance tokens where we see there's like a low trading volume, but a high TVL. Second example is what we call Oracle X. Oracle X was designed for yield-bearing assets like LRTs and RWA assets. Primary feed, once again, is your TV WAP market rate feed. This time, the secondary feed pulls the direct on-chain exchange rate. So if you have, for instance, an LRT worth 1.2x the underlying value, the underlying asset value, and there's someone that tries to manipulate that price to make it 1.5x the value of the underlying asset, the logic is never going to allow the price to be higher than the real redemption value. And that's on-chain and verifiable. So again, we see a situation where we can prevent attacks like in the situation like Scream. Lending protocols would be able to liquidate their loans faster than the market can react. And in the case like Mango markets, it's similar to historical, where you are unable to over-collateralize your positions. And so that's a quick introduction to the smart oracles. Um, Again, coming back to the market we have live, we're aiming to launch 15 more of these Morpho markets by the end of the year, and then continue to grow from there. So the goal here, like I said a few times, is safer DeFi for everyone and more efficient DeFi. Retail is here. We don't need the degen trying to live off his yield to be worried about market manipulation attacks. Institutions are here, and if we think about a pension fund or an investment manager looking and considering DeFi yield, they're not just degenning trying to maximize their yield. And risk curators do not want to be worrying about how the trading of the market rate tokens will affect the yield of their LRT assets. And so altogether, better protocols attract both, so retail and institutions. Smart oracles means that DeFi protocols can be faster and safer. Typically, if a LRT kind of gained popularity, um, a DeFi protocol would go through weeks of price analysis, custom oracle integrations, um, risk analysis. And now they can just deploy it with smart oracles because the risk management is built into the oracle itself. And so, yeah, I hope I've left you with kind of a bit of a picture of the opportunity here. And to any DeFi protocols or risk curators, feel free to connect with us on Telegram. We're ready to help you kind of upgrade your Oracle infrastructure and then also deploy capital safer and more efficiently. So thank you.